Hello and welcome to Cyan's Mystical Worlds. In today's episode, I have Elden Ring playing in the background, and we're going over to Chapter 6. Without further ado, let's get started. I woke up and she was hovering above me, with her wings flapping silently next to her holding out the mana ball. After you eat, make me a ball or I will zap the water again, she said wickedly. She looked slightly more drained than from earlier, so I assume since she said every morning that a day has passed, I eat the mana ball and feel my energy being replenished. And while I feel the power coursing through me, I hear the zapping sounds from her hands. While I create the mana ball and hand it over, the forest green electricity she had between her hands disappear. I watch as she eats most of it but a speck, and I can sense the mana coursing through her little body. She starts to actually grow, so now she is 3 feet tall instead of 2 feet. You grew from eating it this time? I asked questioningly. I get a small zap from this. I show more pain than what I actually felt. Are you making fun of me? She asked menacingly. No, I haven't met many people since birth, so it's new to me, I responded. I suppose you're right. I'm mainly a leaflet with a small enough percentage cloverling, so I still get good luck every now and then, she said. With this, she waved her hand and cleared the room of everything, and the grass and the floor became clear of debris. The roof leak was fixed. The roof became a solid piece of wood, and the walls that had cracks and splits in it became more natural wood with beautiful flowers of every color around the walls. The grass became a solid material I've never seen before, and the puddle in the corner of the room expanded to a little bit bigger than 4 feet, with a small stone in the middle of the makeshift lake where the stone was submerged, enough for me to still be laying in water. Her bed became an oak tree with a hammock-looking leaf that covered one side of the shack to the other, and then she teleported onto it so fast she left Sparkles where she was at, standing in front of me. Upon landing in the leaf hammock, there was a soft crunch, and she let out a small, excited breath. I haven't lived like this since before the collide, she said calmly. Can people from outside the shack see this? I asked. Nobody in Crystal City has enough mana to sense this, let alone see through my hidden spell, she said nonchalantly. The people and guards in Diamond City don't care what happens in here. As long as the orb comes back up to full strength, they won't ever come down here, she said. What happens if we kill each other? How does the ball go up, I ask. If population gets too small, they have DNA tanks for most of us in here to breed us with magic until there is enough people to stay in here. Besides, if we get close enough, we have 2 floors here. This is the top floor. Down below is a lot worse, she said with a tinge of fear in her voice. Be lucky you're up top. We get drained the least. The ones down below don't have that luxury. It's a constant drain on them. Nobody who has seen down below make it out alive, unfortunately, she said with pure hatred. Her wings fluttered angrily about. Enough about that, though. On to better things. What do you know about magic? She asked. Not enough, to be quite honest, I said, lying to her. Luck with cloverlings don't work in battle, so your victory over a vice captain had to be with cunning or talent. And not many people have actual talent. It always has to be the intelligence or knowing how their powers work, and how you can best them with your brain rather than brute magical strength. Most people who try to use brute strength are lying unconscious on the ground before beating someone else. 98% of magic comes from the quasar above our head, so you saying you know nothing is a lie, she said unimpressed. This time she had a pink fire appear at her hands in a threatening way. This cast a pink light around the shack that looked beautiful but fearful to witness. Can't use the same magic every time. We do gain a small immunity to magic, thanks to the nature of magic, she said. That is going to be helpful in the future, I thought to myself. Well, I'm not really sure what happened. I tried to use lightning against his water, but instead conjured fire, I said truthfully. Electric would have worked against any other type of sigil. However, the water eel attacks from angles not seen from most people, and is so high up that the water wouldn't have been near the user for it to be effective. He is a ranged attacker, she said. How do you know how he battles? I asked. I've seen it once or twice sometimes when a riot breaks out, then send some sigils. They sometimes send sigils out here to handle it, to make sure the mana isn't too high in here because we could overthrow them, or at least attempt to break down the walls. Then who keeps the spire fed? She said, sitting up to face me on her leaf hammock. Well, we were in a cell when he attacked me, so range was not his strong suit, I responded. Why the hell would he attack you in a cell of that size then? She asked, puzzled. I'm not really sure. I was picked up when the disaster orb pulled me out of the house, I said, hoping she didn't pry any further. Interesting. You said house instead of shack. After saying that, she teleported to the other side of the shack in my face, to the point I could feel her breath in my face. That's how you know the spell. You win a Diamond City, which means you can make more mana for me to eat enough to teleport into the city, she exclaimed. While saying this, she started pacing around the shack. They don't check the houses, and only ones dumb enough to open their doors are pulled out from the orb. That is how everyone ends up down here, she continued. Don't you ever wonder why there are no doors on the outside? The law states anyone foolish enough to be outside during the dimming must be help keep the orb alive for the safety of the planet, she said in deep thought. Most of them remove their doors, so for a house to have a door is very interesting indeed. Almost like whoever owns the house wanted you to get curious, she said, very pleased. So whose house was it, she asked. I'm literally in full panic mode. What do I say? Could Mr. Zinsky have wanted me to go outside? Did he plan for this to happen? Should I tell her who lives there? He said he would be back to take me to his school. Was this also a lie? I'm not sure his name. He never gave it to me. His face was hidden behind a barrier I could not penetrate at the time, but he left shortly after teaching me how to use enough magic to communicate and understand most things. Then he left me his library, and with it the instructions on how to train myself in magic. I lied and hoped it would be enough for her questions, but there is no telling what is going to happen. I see. Well, I see two outcomes to this. Either we attempt to teleport into the house, since that is the only way into the Diamond District, and the only ones with knowledge of the house can get in. So by you seeing the house and the library, you have enough knowledge to get us in. Or I leave you here when I run off into the wild, she said with a twinkle in those green leaves. It doesn't work that way. For one to make mana balls, they have to be shown it from someone who has made it from scratch. Why don't I teach you how to make the mana balls and I leave? Oh, I misread that. The person who you met was a high-ranking official, that is for certain, she said. I'm happy she did not push this any further. She believed the face covering, cause that cold have been bad. That could have been bad. It's gonna take time for these bones to heal before I can make that trip. What you see here is pretty much basic magic. To perform a feat like teleporting into the Diamond District, it requires a lot of magic. That magic can only be gained from the Quasar itself. The magic flowing in this city has a barrier around it, weakening it, if you will, Queen said. So what about the Diamond District? Does it have a barrier, I asked? Yes and no. The barrier around us reflects it in a way, making the Diamond District magic stronger than being in the outside world due to reflect the magic that would be coming in here. Hence the weakening, Queen said. So that may be why magic was able to fend off a vice captain. We were equal in strength, I asked. No, he was outside, his area of comfort. He thought you would be easy pickings. His eagle needed time to travel and get water around your feet in the air around you so it can attack at every different angle, she said, still in deep thought. Anybody with any knowledge of magic could have won that fight in those circumstances, if we were in the Diamond District even for 2 minutes. However, it shows that you belong here. You tried brute strength against him, Queen said. I pondered this for quite a bit, before thinking about my next move. I need to start planning more, so I can get out of this. I know I have enough strength now to make another mana ball. Will I pass out from this, though? I should ask, actually. She seems to know what she is talking about. So why do you pass out if we try and use brute strength in battle? I asked. The question seemed to pull out of her thought. She was looking right at me. She paused for a moment before speaking. Sometimes when you channel the magic through you, you grab too much for your body to handle at one time. It should be balanced. Everything should be in moderation. Too much to any one side could be devastating, like when you create electricity in between your hands. While saying this, she arcs pink electricity between her fingers and starts pulling her hands further apart, showing them zapping from the tips of the left hand to the right hand. The crackling sound it creates an uneasy feeling in a small shack. You are balancing the positive and negative electrons to bring balance, and if you add too much to any one side of the equation, you could instead inadvertently hurt yourself, she said while focusing on any movement from me. The electricity between her hands went away. As I thought about this, I decided to ask her, how does teleportation work? I've seen it done, but I haven't been able to do it as of yet. You say teleport, and I've seen you jump around the room. How exactly does that work? I asked. You still think I'll give you that answer while we are down here? She asked, puzzled. She stopped pacing as she had perfected her plan. My attempt at gaining more insight from her has failed. As the days turn into weeks, feeding her while getting in the small crumbs she gives me in the morning, I feel like I'm back to my normal self from the events of the orb. Queen's aura seems to radiate, almost like she is setting out a challenge to those above in the Diamond District. We leave tonight after the orb restores itself, she says while floating to the door, the sounds of her wings rustling against the bed as she leaves it before leaving the shack silent again. I start to feel some pressure in the room from the orb getting closer to the ground, and I know we shall be leaving soon. I walk to the door to look outside and see the same people laying on the mats. I can't help but feel that they have accepted their fate of being down here to make sure the world survives. I look up at the orb, which is no more than 10 feet above me, and as I start to lower and dim, as it starts to lower and dim, the more I feel the fear start to freeze my limbs. I start backing away from the door, but Queen puts her hand on my back. You're gonna watch it this time. You need to understand what it does. Maybe one day it can save your life, she says softly. I'm not sure what you mean by that, I asked. Feel the magic flow from one person to the orb. Understand what it's doing. Why not take the magic from the quasar above? Why from us? You ever think on that? She said. This stuns me. Why did that do that? As I start to think, the orb turns dark and stops moving above the city, and I feel Queen's hand tighten around my back, and she picks me up and throws me outside. I watch in horror as she backs into the shack, avoiding the orb while flying through the air. I think to myself, why is this happening to me? What have I done to deserve this? The fear and panic sets in, and before the orb starts, I'm back in her shack where I woke this morning. As the sounds of torment are heard outside, I look up at Queen with eyes of rage. How could you? I snarl. I can feel the temperature of the room rising. How are you back in here? I thought you said you couldn't teleport, she said, seeming uncomfortable from the heat. She starts using the heat to her advantage, and the pink electricity starts arcing between the shack, and a wicked smile stretches across her face. You don't know what my sigil is, and yet you're trying to pick a fight, she said maniacally. What she doesn't know is I have started seeing the flow of magic and pink electricity for the past couple of days. I smile and say, I guess we'll never know. I shout, and as I do, I add as much negativity I can to the room, causing a giant explosion, blowing the shack to nothing while simultaneously teleporting outside of the capital to leave her to the orb's fate. The blinding purple comes into view as I see the place where Mrs. Zinsky met me. The world is still as apocalyptic looking as ever. I see the pink tinged smoke from this distance raising up from the southern part of the city. The orb is back in its place, radiating like a golden star. I'm not sure where to go or how I have teleported twice, but the first thing I do is to get something to drink and eat before scanning my location, making sure I'm alone. I think to myself, I should have done this first. As the deafening silence sets in, I realize I can also practice my water while I'm out here. After a couple of days, I figured out the water breathing by making a makeshift pond near my location. I also built a makeshift shelter to protect myself from the harsh purple light. Now that I have gotten water breathing down in the event of another water user attacking me, I also practice my electric while standing in the water to not be as susceptible to the electric attack, since I have been attacked by them twice. I learned that by controlling the positive and negative electrons around my body, the electricity after several failed attempts won't come near my body. A makeshift shelter is just a stone slab coming up from the ground, with another slab coming out far enough for a roof. I don't spend too much time on it since I won't be here long. I have teleported twice, and now it is time to learn how to do it. Where you want to go is where you will be, echoes in my mind. I think about the city of Aloyne and focus on it intently, and when I open my eyes, I'm still in my makeshift stone slab. I start overthinking about my situation, and it angers me. I start feeling the temps rise again, and the puddle starts to boil. I think about the city of Aloyne again, and this time if I'm seeing myself walking through the city while it's bustling, and when I let go of my anger and exhale, I hear noises around me like people moving around, and feel someone bump into me. Watch out, kids, someone says. I open my eyes, and before me is a beautiful city of Aloyne. I did it. I finally teleported. This is going to end Chapter 6. If you have enjoyed the colorful worlds that I'm creating, please consider casting a spell on the like button, and don't forget to leave the portal open again to view these worlds again by subscribing, and if you want to be notified when the portal is active again, please turn on notifications.
My beloved, have no fear. I will hold thee. Patience. Ye will be countless born, forever and ever. Upon my name as Rani the Witch. Mother's rich slumber shall not be disturbed by thee. Foul trespasser. Send word far and wide. Of the last queen of Caria, Renala of the full moon. And the majesty of the night she conjureth. Where did ye flee, my sweetings? Come out from whence ye hide. There are books and light and plenty. Dither not. Come out, say I. Oh, is it thy to become? Be not alarmed. I would but